Now this breaking story involving this new tax plan to be proposed by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, running now she wants to be president. The tax would be imposed on the wealthiest Americans. So MJ Lee is reporting this out for us today. She's our CNN national political correspondent. And so talk to me about this ultra-millionaire tax.
Yeah, so this is a wealth tax on everyone with a net worth of over $50 million. There would be a 2% tax on households with a net worth between $50 million and $1 billion, and then a 3% tax on households with net worths exceeding $1 billion. This they're calling the billionaire surtax. They have already run this by at least two economists who work at UC Berkeley. This is what the Warren team is telling us. And they estimate that this wealth tax would affect some 75,000 American households, less than 0.1% of American households, and would raise around $2.75 trillion over a 10-year period. While we go through sort of the nitty-gritty details of this draft plan, I think it's important to talk about the political significance of this. This is everything to do with the concentration of wealth in this country. That has been a key message that we have heard from Senator Elizabeth Warren for a very long time. We expect this to be at the very core of her progressive platform as she eventually, we expect her to formally announce her presidential campaign. So in a lot of ways, it is not surprising that this would be the first sort of policy, major policy proposal that we see coming out of her camp. And this is the senator sort of planting an early flag, right, on an issue that we expect to really dominate the 2020 field on the Democratic side, because so much of the battle that we see on that side is going to be between sort of the progressive candidates and how far left they are willing to go, what kind of progressive platforms and policy ideas they're willing to embrace, and then the candidates who are considered more centrist. So that battle, I think, is the one that she is setting up with this policy proposal. And because she has planted this flag, we can expect that all of the other candidates and potential candidates are going to be asked about this and just asked, where do you fall on this issue? Are you to the left of her, to the right of her? Do you agree with this proposal? Do you like this proposal?
I'm curious from our Republican, Anna Navarro first. What do you think of this?
Well, I don't like it. It doesn't appeal to me. I will tell you that when I listen to the proposal, it almost feels to me like Elizabeth Warren is trying to somehow ride Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's coattails. I think she's trying to get in on that brown girl magic. You know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was Instagramming live from her kitchen. Elizabeth Warren was Instagramming live from her kitchen. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez started talking about a 70% marginal tax and taxing the billionaires. Now Elizabeth Warren is putting it in paper. Look, it might be very appealing for progressives. It might be very appealing in a Democratic primary. I don't know. I can tell you that for disengaged Republicans, disenchanted Republicans, Republicans in exile like me, desperately looking for someone to support instead of Donald Trump, and let me just say, I will vote for a hologram before I vote for Donald Trump. This does not cut it. This does not make her any more appealing to me.
Go ahead, Van.
Well, you know, it's interesting because this is a very popular idea. One of the things that's happening is this weird phrase called income inequality, wealth inequality. These are very academic terms, very dry terms that have now become very mainstream and very popular. It just means the rich have been getting richer, the poor have been getting poorer, and the middle class has been getting devastated. And Donald Trump blew a multi-trillion-dollar hole in the budget with his last kind of tax giveaway. And you got, if you're looking at seriously, how are you going to govern the country now? Do you go back and you make poor people and middle-class people and working-class people pick up the tab for the Donald Trump tax cut? Or you say, well, fine, let's figure out some way to repair America's bridges and roads and that kind of stuff and fill this hole. Who's got the cash to do it? The people who are making $50 million, $1 billion, $20 billion, those people, 2% of their income could fill this hole, and they probably wouldn't even notice it. So I think some people on the right will say this is socialism. I think a lot of people are going to say it's just common sense and fairness.
But what about her whole point? I've still got David Chalian. Let me ask David on Anna's point about, you know, Elizabeth Warren, right, writing AOC's coattails, taking a note from her on everything from her tax plan to Instagram, I don't know what Elizabeth Warren would say about that, but what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know that that's what the Warren operation is doing. I think Anna's smart to note that Ocasio-Cortez has sort of arrived in a way and seems to have a voice in the party here. But I think Warren is cutting her own path, and I think even without Ocasio-Cortez in the picture, this would have been part of her plan. I think that politically, step back and look at what we're talking about here. You want to see where the Democratic Party has moved over the years. This would be an unthinkable proposal for a top-tier presidential candidate in the Democratic Party not that long ago to put forth, because it would just seem so easily targeted by the Democrats, really creating electability concerns in a general election. I'm not saying that this would be an easy sell to the American public at large if Warren's the nominee, Brooke, but I just think it is such a prime example of where the Democratic Party is shifting. The fact that a top-tier contender in this race feels that they could comfortably make this appeal right now. And then to MJ's point, I just don't think that we should miss this. This is a big old welcome to the race sign from Elizabeth Warren to Kirsten Gillibrand and Kamala Harris, who have just gotten in now, because now she wants to start drawing some contrasts as this Democratic field is getting a bit crowded in these early days. And to me, this is a big welcome to the race, folks. Where do you stand on this?
I think it's more than contrast, though, David, because look, you know, I'm not a Democrat, but from where I stand, it feels to me like Elizabeth Warren's announcement and candidacy has been greeted like a can of Coke that has been opened for a day and left on the counter. It is a little stale and it is a little flat. It's lost its bubbly. And, you know, I think she needs to figure out how to re-engage and reignite and bring energy to this and bring attention to herself, because we have seen a Kamala Harris come out of the gate with a lot more enthusiasm, and it seems to me she's being received much more warmly than Elizabeth Warren is. But let's ask Dan. He's a Democrat on the panel.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Van.
I do think it's interesting, though. Elizabeth Warren, really even before Bernie Sanders in some important ways, was making this case. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in some ways, is borrowing from Elizabeth Warren's ideas, Bernie's ideas. They really went first and kind of made these ideas acceptable, and now AOC is kind of making them exciting. And so I do think that what you're seeing is a very healthy, progressive wing of this party with a lot of personalities and a lot of people. In some ways, I think Elizabeth Warren is trying to keep Bernie out of this race. I agree that her campaign has not caught fire. I agree she's trying to have it catch fire. But her hopes really lie on Bernie Sanders deciding that there is a progressive standard bearer in this race, and that having 2 or 3 or 4 strong progressives is just going to help the moderates. And so there's a negotiation going on among the progressives, but I think it's less about AOC and more about Bernie Sanders.
Okay. I'm going to thank all of you guys. I'm still back on the Weekend at Bernie's reference from Anna Navarro. Man, that's a good one. Thank you all so much. And
Tell
Dan
me that
Jones.
I'm wrong. Go ahead and tell me that I'm wrong.